Huston here with Peter Schneider to my left and TK all the way down south in Atlanta. How you doing, guys?
All right.
Doing well, doing well.
Awesome. So we just spent a couple of days at NAB 2022. It was very exciting to be in person, and that was followed up last weekend by the Gotham Sound Expo. So we just wanted to highlight some of the things that we are excited about. We're, of course, excited about everything, but we'll do kind of our top list. So we've prepared a little slideshow presentation, so let's bring that in.
Aha.
So first up are the new digital slot receivers, the DSR and the DSR4 from Lectro. These represent a pretty big leap forward for Lectro. They've only had they've had the D squared and the DCR822, but this is their the DSR4 is their first 4-channel digital slot receiver. So that was pretty exciting. What do you guys want to add to this?
Well, I think having AES out is huge. I think the fact that you have the 5-pin, I think the fact that you get AES in all of those SR multi-couplers, they'll come through the 25-pin. Yeah, it's great. You can go digital on the transmitter, keep it digital in the receiver, digital the recorder.
Just before we go on, I just want to forgot to mention we're live now. So if you have any questions or want to chat with us, we will, we'll talk about them here. So right now there's something that's apparently there's a graphic that needs to be fixed. So I don't know, Jared, if you want to work on that. The cool thing and the surprising thing about the DSR4 to me was that even though it is scheduled to be available in third quarter, which probably means September or so, they had working prototypes there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was huge. What fully working? I didn't get a chance to play with them.
Well, we don't know if it was fully working, but we were using a digital transmitter in our rig, and we were able to tune both of them into that digital transmitter. It was able to, open up the pilot tone or whatever they use for digital encryption these days, and, light up green or and give full bars and modulate. So that is at least a step in the right direction.
I wonder if Kyle's talking about the Gotham bug, by the way. The little Gotham bug in the corner that's obscuring the graphics. All right, sorry about that, Kyle.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I thought a huge improvement, just maybe a little bit more simple about the buttons and it's RGB screen, I believe. So full color. That's just very modern. So love seeing that modernization brought to the product.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the bezel and the screen and the buttons, they're all different. And, the idea certainly behind this is to be able to, get, let's say, 8 channels in an SL2 very easily. And if you're using an older multi-coupler or something that's designed for, just 2 channels out, you can certainly take AES out, as Peter mentioned. Or you can do analog from the back plate, and you can do 2 channels analog from the front plate, so doing all 4 channels.
Do we know if it's going to work in the sound devices, their quad Dante multi-coupler?
The SL2, or are you talking about the A10?
A10 rack. Yeah.
I see. We'd have to do a test.
Yeah.
My assumption,
I've been asking.
Yeah. And did you find anything out, TK?
It's not confirmed, essentially. We were talking with one of the reps, and basically they need to just confirm that the output cable for the SMA antenna is not, for the lead, is not going to cause a problem with the bezel.
Yeah. Interesting. I like that A10 rack. We've had some maniac customers that have modded them for other brands of wireless. Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Well, if there are no questions about the Lectro stuff, why don't we... Oh, I should say they're available for pre-order now, pricing information on the web, all that stuff. And you can check out the deeper dive on our NAB 2022 videos. So let's move on to something that was announced at the Expo, which was really exciting to have a product launch at our own event. We've got more from the Zaxcom ZMT4 line, which is the 4X and the ZMT4HM. Let's see. TK, we're getting a comment asking you to turn your volume down, and Peter to turn your volume up.
I will just speak up into the mic. I
Yeah.
think that's probably the easiest.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So the big news on both the ZMT4 and the ZMT4X and the ZMT4HM is just huge battery life. I believe Glenn said approximately 16 hours runtime on the 4X. Which is pretty fantastic. The 4X will also now support lavs with 5 volt, so anything DPA, besides the including the 4063, but not limited to the 4063, is available, and kind of all the standard Zaxcom goodies.
Amazing. And when is that shipping?
So, well, if you watch the video, it says the ZMT4 is now available. It's not quite available, but it is going to be coming soon. So I would say keep an eye on it in the next 2 to 6 weeks, just to give you a broad range.
Nice.
Yeah. TK, did you get a chance to check those out while you were here?
Yes, they look great. I like the form factor. It's getting smaller, and no antenna is always nice. So we'll see. I'd like to get them in hand.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the 4X will require an antenna, but the HM, is designed, as Glenn says in the video, for kind of shorter range, plug-on transmitter for a reporter, not for a boom. Important. He did not recommend it for a boom.
Why not?
Just the range is not as good. He says in the video he says that antennas are important for range, and he really believes that. So the ZMT4HM, even though it's nice and small and might look very cute at the end of a boom pole, you're going to get the maximum range from one of their other transmitters, like the 743.
Copy that. And thanks, Peter Morrison. I appreciate the feedback. We appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other comments from you two about the ZMT4 line?
No, I'm looking forward to getting him in.
Me too.
Was there any news about a recorder that he mentioned?
Well, we'll get there. Right now,
right.
we're in wireless
Oh,
world, Peter.
sorry.
We're trying to keep like things together. So we're going to keep all the chocolate on one side and the peanut butter on another. I don't know.
You're crazy.
I know.
I was like, that's not going to go down.
You mix it, then all of a sudden you've just got Reese's Pieces everywhere. All right. Very good. And those are available for pre-order now as well. So we had a fantastic conversation with Nancy at Q5X. I should mention that all the background noise is that we both have open stores, so the beeping is apparently Atlanta's being robbed. Is that right, TK?
No, but we did have a previous incident where we decided to move to beeped entry, a remote entry essentially. So
let them know.
It is what it is. Maybe we'll move past that one day.
Very good. Well, anyway, this was one of my favorite interviews to do because Nancy's just super fun and entertaining and really has a good perspective on the Q5X.
That has my vote for my favorite video.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I also really enjoyed Paul from Sound Devices because of the soccer bit, but that's a whole nother thing. So for anybody not familiar with the Q5X line, Q5X makes a series of either flexible or ultra rugged transmitters that have been designed for various purposes. They're most known for sports or underwater or survivor kind of based things, but they have a really slick line of transmitters. And what they focused on and showed off at this NAB were a line of accessories to make things easier to hide, so pouches and things like that in different OEMs, and also some transmitters you could order in custom colors, which if you were doing, let's say, a Broadway show or something over and over where you wanted a beige transmitter to hide in whatever costume I could do, but also increased integration with an online platform. So it was a pretty interesting conversation.
Waterproof. And their own sort of remote control app, which is cool.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The
much closer to the way. Well, it's like Electro without the Dweedle tones.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
it's its own handheld device.
Mm-hmm.
And its own, so you can walk right up to an actor,
Mm-hmm.
show them that you're muting them the mic. I mean, it's an interesting hybrid, I think.
Yeah, and that's how they've always done it. I mean, there are very few buttons on those things, if any, and you just really have to turn it on. And there's a mic commander, either as Peter said, handheld, or that you can connect through a laptop that you can use to change frequencies, adjust things on and off, and yeah. So yeah, we did start off the video with one of their mics underwater, which was fun.
In a fishbowl.
In a fishbowl.
It's very cool.
Exactly. And not the kind you drink, or you shouldn't drink from that fishbowl anyway. It's kind of gross. Sorry, we have a bar down the street that serves alcohol in a large fishbowl. I don't know if you've ever had that.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, if Roy's
They took it
watching-
off the menu since COVID down here.
It's boring. TK, can you turn your mic down just a tiny bit more? We're getting a little bit flack. Thank you. All right, TK, you want to add anything about that interview?
Not really. Just would love to see more dedication of that product down here in Atlanta, but nothing to add really.
Okay. The one thing I do want to add, now that you talk about more representation, is that it's not a super common product line outside of the sports world, but in terms of film and TV or any of our customer base, we do have demo units available. So if you're interested in checking out Q5X for some kind of purpose-built application, give us a call. Let us know. They do have transmitters that work natively with Shure Axient, so that's a really interesting use case as well.
That's a perfect combo, I think. And I think, lots of use case obvious ones are reality shows that water's involved in.
Yep.
Or even like a rain scene with dialogue.
Yep. Exercise videos, sports ball, whichever sports ball you're into.
They are used for the Rockettes.
Yeah, true.
Because of the form factor, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the other wirelesses. All right, yeah, Wisycom was there. TK, you did this interview. Why don't you talk about Symphony?
So with Wisycom, the Symphony lineup, we essentially have their new MRK rack, which allows you to slot in 4 of their quad receivers. And then the very tricky part about this, or not tricky, but I think trick on their part is it's so cool that you can essentially route the RF out of the rear, so there's no SMA connections on the front that you have to take care of.
Finally. How long did that take? I mean, it goes all the way back to Audio Limited when they had their 6-pack. Just slotted right in. That was it. No RF connections on the front. Brilliant.
So then the combination of this and their soon newly released app, available on both platforms for Android, Google, and iOS as well, will allow you to essentially have full control over all your receivers. You can scan, I believe, as well. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty powerful combination depending on the form factor that you're wanting to use it in, whether on a cart or maybe within a more like a mini cart even, or even within a bag.
Yeah, PoE. There's some PoE action, so you can really remote it. And speaking of remote, it's all IP controllable, so you could really remote it over a VPN. Send it off to a studio, and you can control it from your home if that ever becomes a thing again.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Yeah.
And then Quadversity, right?
I don't think it's quad. It's still diversity, but each receiver has. Each channel has 2 dedicated receivers into it, so it's like antenna diversity, receiver diversity for all 4 channels. So my understanding is that there's actually 4 receivers inside each. 8 receivers inside each MCR54. Both looking at antenna diversity, picking what's best. Then the actual receiver itself will pick which audio quality is best of the receivers inside it, and then output it for everything. I should mention, these the MCR54 since it came out has been super popular, so it is back ordered. So the lead time is a couple of months on these things, but they have they are shipping things out steadily, including the new MTP60 transmitters.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, great. More from the wireless. What do we got? Yeah. So as I said, this was a fun video. Paul Isaac from Sound Devices is originally from across the pond and was fascinated or really distracted watching a soccer game against one of his bitter rivals. Oh, Kyle reminded us about the MCR54 Dual. Yep, there's the 2-channel version, the MCR54 Dual, of the MCR54 Quad.
What? Less money? Is that the
Less money, less channels. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah. So as the opposite of more money, more problems. Less money, less channels.
And
Less
don't forget
power,
about
I
the
presume?
52 as well. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the MPR52 that's been out for a while. That's the super portable one. Jared, can we go back one slide just for fun since we're talking about Wisycom? And we'll go immediately forward again. Yeah, so the MCR54 Dual is out, and that's actually more readily available now. The MCR54 Quad, kind of for obvious reasons, but for people that do need a 2-channel slot receiver or only need 2 channels, those are more readily available.
And it does the whole band.
Right, yep. 470 to 961. Yeah, it's a lot. I got to say, just as while we move to the next slide, I really enjoy talking into a large diaphragm microphone. Even though it's dynamic,
Yes.
I sound a lot better. I generally hate the sound of my voice, and now I hate it less. So there we go.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. All right. So yeah, anyway, Paul Isaac, Sound Devices across the pond watching soccer while being interviewed. Super fun. So anyway, Peter, do you want to talk about the V5 firmware on the Audio Limited?
Sure. I mean, for me, the big news of the V5 firmware is the Q meter, right? I mean, it is one thing to see RSSI, signal strength, but that doesn't tell the whole story. You can have a strong carrier, but really weak audio quality. And because these are digital transmitters, it can sort of do the math and check the errors. And it can tell you if there's a lot of errors, that means you have low quality. And so, I mean, Shure's approach is interesting to have RSSI and the quality because that tells you the whole story. But quality, really is what you care about and what you need to know. So, yeah, I mean, what does that mean? Either range is an issue or interference. But at least it tells you what's going on in terms of the math inside the wireless.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. TK, is there anything you wanted to comment on that?
No, not really. That's a pretty good summation of that.
Great. The other thing that I want to comment on, and this is not really sound or a wireless thing, but we did a couple interviews with Sound Devices. The one with Paul was the only one that had actual equipment. We did 2 at NAB that were just kind of on the floor, and one of them was with the owner of Audiotonics that just purchased Sound Devices, and that to me was one of the more interesting interviews because it was a little bit of a higher level perspective of the sound industry. So I really enjoyed that one.
I am excited by that interview.
Yeah.
Because what I got out of that interview, and I'm reading between some lines.
Sure.
Is he doesn't try and change the individual workings and goings on within the company, and he encourages them to collaborate.
Yeah.
So if you sort of look at what other companies, they own, Audiotonics own, which, by the way, the name comes from gin and tonic.
Yes.
There's some exciting possibilities. I mean, the Allen and Heath possibilities alone. I'm excited.
Good. All right. Well, let's move on to the next slide. And this one is pretty quick, but we had a great interview with Andy from Sony. Andy is, you just kind of wind him up and let him go, and he will tell you all the information. So there's a lot of dense information there. There are 2 exciting things, and one of them I completely forgot about and didn't ask for a picture, but it's the UWPD41. That's their new 2-channel kind of, lower end receiver. So it works with their UTX, their UTX line. That is going to be available soon. But the thing that we're showing here is just that the Sony wireless, the higher end, 2-channel slot receivers now have compatibility with the Sound Devices 8 series and Super Slot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Look, their high-end wireless is used by some high-end sound mixers, production sound mixers. And I think there's something to be said that you can take their digital wireless, and I'm thinking more of their lower or mid-tier digital wireless, and using their hot shoe integration, connect it to a camera, digital audio into the camera, with power going to the receiver.
Yeah.
With no cables, all in that hot shoe.
And that even works with the lower end one. Oh, here it is. Here's the URX-PD, whatever it is, URX-D.
I
41.
kind of think if you're shooting Sony, this makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
even if you carry it for your wireless hop.
Right. Yeah. So with that hot shoe going into an A7S, you're just completely bypassing any kind of A to D conversion, with the exception of the microphone to the into the transmitter. After that, everything's digital. All right, so moving on, we're going to change categories, and this was probably the most exciting thing to come out of the Gotham Expo. Nope, not that one. Next. Oh, we're switching from web browser. There it is. Okay. So the new Zaxcom Nova 2. The new Zaxcom Nova 2. Oh, we have some flashing lights behind us. That's cool. Joe, you can just walk in. It's okay.
Joe is literally slinking around.
It's pretty fun.
I have an app for that, Joe. Here, why don't you? I do have an app for that.
Well, Peter will adjust the flashing lights.
I'll adjust the lights.
The Nova 2 announced as the successor to the Nova 1, announced this Saturday, coming in 6 to 8 weeks. The big news is AES-IO on this. So we actually don't have a picture of the back because the one that was there was not actually a Nova 2. It was just kind of a prop to talk about, but there'll be another DB15 on the back that will have an additional 8 channels of AES either in or AES out. So the idea being that you could very easily get 16 channels of wireless from the 4 slot receivers in the back, and then another 8 channels of wireless in from, let's say, an RX-8D, and then also take AES out into some kind of a backup recorder. So that was fun. A lot of questions about that one. That's a good interview. It's a little long, but if you're interested in Zaxcom Nova or want to know kind of what's going on there, there's a lot of dense information.
Yeah, it's huge.
And like I said, those are available for pre-order. 6 to 8 weeks from now is when we expect the first one to ship. Same form factor. Pretty much everything is exactly the same as you know about the Nova, just that additional AES-IO. And TK, anything you want to add to that?
Nah, I was pretty impressed. Additional AES output, that'll be nice. I know some folks down here are interested in routing things a certain way, so this will certainly help towards that. I
agree. That was an interesting Q&A moment in the video when somebody said, hey, how come you have all these inputs that don't have tracks? And I appreciated Glenn's answer was, hey, we don't know how people want to use it, like you said, TK. So now you want all digital, you can get all digital. You want all analog, you can do it that way. Yeah.
And that's that just coincidentally was the most watched live video we've ever had. So that was pretty fun. I enjoyed that quite a bit. All right. And as I should say, speaking of question and answers, that if as you're watching, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the chat. We've already had a couple of people mostly commenting on our technical failings. But we appreciate your comments.
Hey, we eat our own dog food here. So.
We do.
Yeah,
we do.
right.
It's delicious vegan dog food. All right. Moving on to a new announcement from Zoom. We got to see them at the Expo. And this is adding to their 32-bit recorder line.
Can I just say, if there's 2 controversies we had, we have the other one coming up. I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay.
And then 32-bit float.
Oh, yeah.
I think if you want to get a discussion going, and please, I want to see some comments, just say 32-bit float. And yeah, look, I think it's a good thing. I'm going on record. I think 32-bit float is a good thing. I think it's a tool. Doesn't, you don't always have to use it, but it does come in handy. I forget the rep's name that we did the video with.
Ryan?
Maybe,
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah, he was good. He said something that doesn't help the controversy, which is he said, yeah, you don't need to worry about gain staging.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I just cringed. That's not the most exciting. You know, you still have to think about signal flow. I get what he was saying, but you do have to think about gain.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't have to think about a limiter. You know, look, there's a major Netflix thing going on right now that I was consulting with. There's the mixer sets up their Zoom in a self-driving car. It's actually one of those like remote controlled cars. It's the craziest thing that I've ever seen, really. You know, the car is below all of the, anyways. The point is there's no room for an audio person. 32-bit float, go.
And
I think where it has its huge advantage. I'm sorry to jump in on
you
that.
go.
It's where, from the professional like sound person standpoint, you don't want to receive, like from a post standpoint, you don't want to receive, you know, garbage tracks or tracks that are less suboptimal, we'll say. So this is a great way to have someone on the front end with minimal knowledge just say, hey, these 3 procedures, do this, hit record, and you're good to go. And then from the back end, you have someone who's a pro who maybe wouldn't have even used 32-bit floating, you know, in this scenario, but still are able to receive quality tracks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to show this
Yeah,
comment.
go ahead,
I'm going to show this comment. Eric, 32-bit float may not be a replacement for gain staging, but it certainly could get a lot more usable audio channels in a lot of extreme situations. This is exactly your point, TK. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody who's doing a documentary today, and it's just like, you still have to worry about gain staging so you can do a quality check on the mic, you know, because if the mic is, you know, they're wearing a lav and it falls off and it's down by their feet, it's going to sound like garbage. But if the gain staging's not set up right, you know, if you've got it turned all the way down and you can't hear it, you're just thinking, la-di-da, I'll fix it in post. There's no fixing a mic that is down by your shoes, unless you want the sound of shoes. Shoes are good.
And you do have to check with post. I don't want to hijack this about a 32-bit float, but yeah, I mean, I get it. It's not something that should be taken lightly.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else for you, TK?
No, I think it's a great tool. Like Peter was just mentioning, you know, there's definitely certain cases where it will excel more than it won't. But for the, you know, the more pro sound person, maybe not for them, but certainly for the prosumer and anybody who's a novice level, I think it's a great product.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So we are going to move on to the Halter-Technical Microsone. And this was a cool one. Doc Justice, who is a union sound mixer out in LA, has been developing this for a while. And basically, these are a pair of Bluetooth earpieces, completely wireless, that have their own little charging case, and they pair with a Bluetooth transceiver. So the idea being that for just $1,400, you can have 2 earwigs and a transceiver that you can broadcast pretty much anything to. So you can broadcast a Comtech 216 transmitter to the transceiver. The transceiver's on set, and it relays the signal to your earwigs. So for for a short scene where it's only going to be a couple of hours, you can use give one to each to 2 different actors, or for a longer scene, you can use them one at a time. So this is kind of a quick and easy way to do earwigs based on Bluetooth and still using your existing infrastructure. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that is that's going to be available later this year. It's not available for pre-order yet unless you go to the Kickstarter, which we have information available in that video as well. Peter, TK, anything you want to add to that?
TK, you go, because I got lots of comments.
Just in the sense of I think it's really going to be fun to kind of see where this goes, because it does a couple different things that we already have going on. I think, yeah, maybe even see this with like a Electro VHF transmitter, a T4, you know, so, like you can really, the options for flexibility with this is going to be wild. And then I think the implementations to see how they actually use it with production will be cool, in terms of maybe we have more casts being fed lines, or maybe that the phone act thing becomes easier, or the name not to be said, but either way, I'm really excited to see the future of how this all unfolds essentially with this product.
Yeah, and I actually do, Jared, if you could bring up the kind of Phonak bundles that are available right now. I shouldn't gloss over that Phonak did announce a 20% special for NAB and for the Gotham Expo. So those kind of things are available now, and you should know that, you know, the Phonak has been the name in earwigs for a minute. So if you're on the fence or thinking about getting it 20% off for, you know, various receiver and transmitter bundles, is pretty good. So anyway, that's that. That's on our website and available whenever.
Yeah, I would add kudos to Doc for doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's really amazing. I'm concerned a little bit about latency and variable latency, and getting a lot of Bluetooth channels to work in a very congested area. You know, I showed this to some of the production sound mixers that do musicals, and you know, they had concerns along those lines. But I think for most use case scenarios, it'll do quite well.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's move on.
Can we go back to Peter?
Oh, you want to hold on? We're going back. Going back to 32-bit float.
Sorry, Jared. 24-bit has 144 dB dynamic range, more than any other microphone. Peter Morrison, I do not disagree with you at all. I think this is for 32-bit float gets interesting for unexpected or uncontrollable situations. You know, so I think as long as you don't hit the maximum SPL that the microphone itself can handle, you know, you can. You know, that's why I think gain staging is important, because you still want to hit a nominal gain. But yeah, for those unexpected points, I think that's where 32-bit float is interesting.
Great. How many times can you say 32-bit float?
Apparently
Fast.
not even once.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's move on. So this we had a nice visit with Andrew from Deity, and they had two new products that were pretty interesting. And TK, you were there with him. Why don't you talk about them?
So this is going to be essentially another entrance of a wireless Slate option into the market. I think that's something to kind of indicate. Some of the highlights, I think, is going to be the display on the rear of the Slate, the built-in handle, the rechargeable batteries. Still on the fence on, and the casing. It's like a full body aluminum casing. I'd really like to get a chance to, quite honestly, throw that on the floor and see how it holds up. But outside of that, I think this is a pretty interesting product due to the current landscape with Slates and where we are with the part shortages globally. So yeah, we'll see how this all kind of pans out, but it presents a pretty nice option, giving you best of both worlds, depending on your workflow, you know.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Okay.
I saw a post from Andrew about battery life. I'm not worried about battery life. You know, just they're sort of manufacturing their own version of that camera battery. I also remember him. You know, it was hard to pay attention to a lot of the live streams. I was sort of busy doing network stuff and trying to steal as much signal as I could. But I remember him saying something about combining it with Sidious Link. So Sidious is the underlying 2.4 gig protocol for a lot of the lights that Aperture make, and it makes sense to kind of piggyback on that. But you know, that combined with a fully graphical display on the Slate, to my mind, opens up the possibility of, you know, now we can finally get metadata on the Slate in some kind of automated way. This has been a dream of mine that I've shared for a long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, anything that kind of gets us closer to that, I'm in favor of.
Any reason you don't have to rely on somebody else's handwriting is a good thing.
Look, I fill in, you know, I'm the fill-in sound guy a lot, or not a lot, but occasionally. And I'm always amazed that the script supervisor asks me what the next letter is sometimes. And I want to say to them, if you knew me when I mixed full time, you would know not to ask me anything like that. But, you know, now because we have to keep track of all the metadata, it makes sense. Wouldn't it just be the next step to push it to the Slate automatically?
Yeah. And I should say, I think those are about $1,000 expected kind of end of summer, early fall. We do have a comment that says it looks a lot like the Betso Slate. Yeah, the form factor is very similar to the Betso WTCS1 or the Deity TSC. It maybe looks like, the two of them are, had a baby and they came out with that. TK, do you want to say anything about the sync box, the TC one?
This thing, in my opinion, just kind of does, I don't know, it's pretty blunt. This gives you the wireless that the JB1 doesn't and the screen that the Tentacle doesn't.
Yep.
There you go. All right. And similar time frame on that as well. All right. So again, thank you so much for your comments. And if you have any questions as well, please leave them in the chat and we will get to them. Let's move on to the Ambient Lockit ! Plus. So that's the Ambient Lockit ! Plus.
Speaking of sharing metadata.
Yeah. So the Master Lockit has been discontinued for at least a few years. And so this Lockit Plus is the latest version of that. So it can do camera integration with cameras that have metadata I/O on it and be able to go to an app. One interesting thing with this is that there is an RF scanning module available for it that you can actually use to, let's say, take on a Scout and do an RF scan, log it, bring it back, and pre-coordinate your frequencies, or use it as a live RF scanner on set.
Right, and I think it even presents itself as a SuperSlot compatible receiver, so you can scan within the SuperSlot ecosystem.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So it's
very clever.
Very, yeah. So from what I remember, they said that would be available soon. So that's we're looking at June for that. These days I'm kind of say that I take every ETA with a grain of salt because you just never know, what kind of part shortages or fuel shortages or short shortages, I don't know, are going to happen. So, but
shortages are the worst.
The worst.
I mean, it's, to be honest, it's cold in New York, so there are no shorts out these days. Clear shortage of shorts. I just made it weird. Okay, let's move on. All right, so TK, you had a chance to talk with Ken Strain at the Expo about K-Tek's new boom poles and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, so K-Tek is revamping their lineup. Basically, a lot of customer feedback, and it's all based off of that. So shout out to you guys, the customers. And remember, this is live, so questions, drop them in the chat while we're doing all this. But essentially, K-Tek recently released, let's say, a year or 2 years ago, their Pro series of their boom poles, which consisted of 6 sections. And they've now revamped this to be 5 sections, which is going to allow you to be a little bit more quicker, I guess, with your moves coming from the boom ops perspective. Probably it's easier to control the boom with less sections. You only need more sections, I guess, if you're traveling or you want to be more condensed. But yeah, I think it's great. You have that new, I guess, the quick release that they've built in terms of the tip. You can change the cable in and out. And probably 3 minutes top. That's a game changer.
I haven't seen this video. So it's an actual quick release. It's not the Allen key that the other Mighty Booms had. It's like you pull down the top mechanism and it goes somewhere.
So they have that top collar now, which is basically replacing the Allen wrench that would normally fit in at the top. You just pull that out and then slither your cable in or out. And you are good to go. It's really quite quite nice that they are taking the feedback and making improvements that seem to be like it's going to work solid on set. So that's what you need.
And do you know, I know the 5 sections are available. Is it available with that quick release thingamajig built in?
I believe they all ship like this now, and if you reach out to K-Tek, they can get you the quick release top segment for your 6-section poles. So.
Cool. I got to watch our own videos. That's awesome. It's good to know.
He recables it live. It's cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Ken does. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So now on to the, should we move on to the controversy?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the other hot button topic. The, no. Wait.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I thought, that's it. Yeah, sorry. They had the other one up first. So the ZombieRig. Motorized boom polling at its best.
Okay, first I'll start.
Go ahead.
It's insane. That doesn't mean it's bad. Look, so what it is, there's two components, right? And I don't know the technical term, but it's one component is they've taken a Tilta follow focus motor and they've attached it to the, what do you call it?
The shock mount.
Well, the shock mount, but what that motion?
Oh,
the kind of tilting.
XY
yeah, I
axis,
mean,
yeah.
if you were booming it, it's the kind of motion where you'd have to do that.
To dip. Yeah.
The dip.
Right.
And it lets you keep the boom pole, level and also control, that angle, which has limited use, but is interesting. And then the other element is a kind of exoskeleton-ish, vest, and that lets you also have control over the sort of panning aspect of it.
Yeah, so if the one you were talking about before was the y-axis, the back and forth would be the x-axis. So you
Yeah.
could do that. And they are talking about doing an extension as well, so that you can automatically extend and collapse the boom pole all from, mounted on your back.
Right. And I get it. It's not, the kind of thing that immediately everybody needs, or even in a long time. You can go a whole career and never need it. But I love the idea that somebody's thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mixed a really low budget film in typical New York apartment. It was, union, but low budget. Old school boom up. Said, what we need in this New York railroad apartment is a Fisher boom pole.
Yeah.
And, it worked. It was a railroad flat. It was what he called the location version of a Fisher boom pole. And, he was able to cover the walks to camera, all the kind of split action and the walks to camera and away from camera with a Fisher. I'll never forget the producer's jaw dropped when we carried it up. And she said, "This will never work. How will you make this work?" This Fisher boom, and John Bowles, boom operator genius, showed us all.
Yeah. So, theoretically, not just for mounting on someone's back, but mounting on a tripod or a stand, and having it be a, more of a larger studio boom a la the Fisher.
Yep. And again, this may not be the thing, right? But somebody's thinking about the thing.
Right. And this, what they showed at NAB, they were prototypes. And the big question that we had going over was, how was the motor? How is it going to sound? Because it is right up next to the mic. And sounded pretty darn quiet from what I could tell.
Yeah. I figured NAB was too noisy. I wouldn't even try. But
yeah.
I know the Tilta follow focus motors and the kind of higher end ones are high end. I mean, they're decent. They're very decent. Eric, yes, Eric Likeness says the Tilta ZombieRig was impressive to be demonstrated. Alan Smithy, I'm not sure if your LOL was for the ZombieRig or for my description of using a Fisher boom in a railroad apartment, but either way, I appreciate it.
All right, great. So the controversy continues. It's not available yet. We'll announce it as soon as it is. We're not currently Tilta dealers because we don't do camera stuff, but
I think it's a thing we could.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. We're working on it. All right, and last but not least, without any questions, is the Viviana Cloud and the integration with Frame.io. So Peter, why don't I let you talk about that a little bit, because I know you're a big Frame.io fiend.
I am a big Frame.io fiend. Look, I think let's first of all start with what is Frame.io.
Sure. Yeah.
Frame.io is a service that it's software as service that allows, initially all kinds of editing material files to be stored in the cloud and accessed. And you can do cuts with, rough cuts and review them and all this stuff. And they had the brilliant idea of taking the files from set and uploading it to the cloud and making that syncing in the cloud, and making that part of the seamless transition from production to post-production. I am the first person to say that this is not a perfect answer, for all situations. We in New York know that, and I'm sure everybody around the world knows, relying on cell for uploading files, you get spotty reception at times. Heck, even here, with our hardwired Ethernet, I'm sort of counting the seconds until we lose our connection. But in any case, I think this is the future. And so does Adobe. This is public knowledge. They were bought for $1.4 billion. I was running around saying 1 billion, and somebody said, "Don't forget the 400 million."
The 0.4.
And I think that it makes sense. Imagine an episodic. I'm not going to talk about my mixing days anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, the stories are good. That's why you're here.
I don't know, but I think we've all had the thing of like shooting the night exterior, going to sleep, waking up, and then seeing that like an ad for that show with that thing you shot 36 hours before, going out on an ad on the next. For me, it was on the next third watch.
There we go.
I think as those, there are still episodic schedules where the post schedule is so much more compressed that this makes a lot of sense. Imagine if you're doing VFX work and you need to get a head start. So, there's all kinds of scenarios where this makes sense. Again, I think like 32-bit float and all the other, technologies that we discuss, it's a tool, and the tool needs to be evaluated, and it's not going to be perfect all the time. I love the fact that Viviana, which is really what we're talking about, has the opportunity to work with them. And so Viviana Cloud is able to take files in audio files specifically via USB and upload them to the cloud. I think it's also brilliant. I think every sound mixer has a story of being asked for an audio file from a few months prior that you hear them cutting around it in the editing room in a panicked phone call. And so the fact that it now seamlessly integrates with Frame.io, in some ways you have the best of all worlds. The sound mixer still has control, but they're able to integrate with a much bigger workflow.
Yeah.
So kudos to all involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty simple. It really works either with, a CF card or an SD card and a reader attached, and then it can just pull the files right off, or you can hook right into most mixers via USB. And again, it uses your cell phone upload data and either directly into Frame.io, or they do Dropbox or Google Drive, however you want to do your backup.
Exactly.
Even if your show doesn't offer Frame.io, it'll work with other stuff. So it's a pretty powerful tool for $400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
All right, TK, anything you want to add there? Anything I left out?
Not with Frame.io and the Viviana Cloud. I don't believe so.
Okay. So I guess we will move on to more of a question and answer session. And basically that just means I'm going to say we're going to wrap up in a second. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them now or leave them at the bottom of the video when we're not live, and we'll get back to you. But I just have one comment, and I said this at the top of the show. It's really a joy after 2 years to be back at NAB and to be back in person at Gotham, and actually we now have this better integration that we can bring you videos like this with from both New York and Atlanta. So it feels nice.
That may be the best thing to come out of this whole experience. I think is we've all sort of figured out a way to make technology work for us.
Yeah. Let's see.
Wait, Casey Sweeten. Hey, Casey. My pals and I have always jokingly wished for some form of boom mic articulation remote control. So I'm just going to show it. So that I also love the concept, but I don't know about this Easy Rig-esque harness. Yeah, I'm with you. This may not be the thing, but I'm glad somebody's thinking about it. You also say it's hard enough to get through doors with a bag. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on this. Yep.
Us too.
Oh, and Peter Morrison. Yeah, the Sennheiser IEM. That was. Yeah. Sorry, Peter. Thank you so much. Yeah, the Sennheiser announced a new IEM. Does it work with the G4 series stuff?
No. No is the short answer.
And
I did ask that.
Cool. But I just people are excited about this because it's
cheap.
It's cheap and it's DC powered. The transmitter's DC powered.
Yeah, it's a standard Sennheiser half rack transmitter. So everything that they do is DC powered with an AC wall wart. And I did ask because I wanted to know if you could use the G4 transmitters to transmit to those IEMs. And basically, it's a different different codec or different compression or however they say. And they just said it would not sound good if you were to try to use a G4 transmitter with it. So if you wanted to carry around a half rack in your bag, it's a pretty darn good deal.
I think if the advantage is you get 2 audio paths. Right? Because you can sort of fake the stereo into 2 monos.
It's also not compatible with 6000 series as well.
Right. Yeah, it's its own thing. It's
right.
Gotta be
Correct.
Stand on its own, grow on its own. But certainly for cart-based people, if you're looking for an inexpensive solution and high quality, it's pretty darn good.
And I believe you can RF do an antenna extension. I believe there's a.
There is a port
for external antennas.
Yeah. Colin Guthrie. So Colin's question is, what did you hear about the overall Dante chip shortage? Maybe you already covered this, but is it 18 months out? I just have to say, as we were sort of coming to the end of our day and we were trying to prioritize who to do videos about, Nick, you said we should do one about Audinate, and I said, what are they going to tell us? And so I don't have an answer that I got from Audinate.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, overall, but what I've heard about the chip shortage, and that's with everything, is we are looking at next year. So a lot of the manufacturers that are doing Dante-based things, and it may not be based on Dante. I was talking to Live Mix the other day, and they have a Dante module for their Mix 16. Fine, in stock, no problem. But there may be other manufacturers that aren't able to get the Dante chips. I know Glenn mentioned that in the Zaxcom video. So everything is a little bit catch as catch can, and I know a lot of manufacturers are redesigning things, kind of across the board to get things rolling again because of the various chip shortages. But specifically with Dante, it's going to be based on each individual manufacturer, what they've pre-ordered, what they have in stock. Some did more than others. So TBD.
Yeah.
But I would say, to have things flowing once again, we're talking, 12 to 18 months.
I do know from what I've heard that it is obviously not Audinate's choice, that their supplier discontinued the underlying system on a chip that the Dante chip is based on.
Yeah.
Specifically the Broadway.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn chips.
The Brooklyn too. Yeah,
the Brooklyn too. Which screwed a lot of manufacturers over. It apparently is not just a simple drop-in replacement, and the replacement that Audinate does have is really what we're waiting on.
Yeah.
Broadway too?
The next version of Broadway is what my understanding is. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, and Colin, you got a shout out from Casey Sweeten, who was happy about your question. So awesome. All right. Well, I guess that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. Yeah. Anything else from you guys? Anything from Atlanta or from all the way over here?
Yeah, we're able to. I mean, we're now able to do this.
Exactly.
Unmasked and everything.
Unmasked and everything.
Yeah.
Great. Well, anyway, TK and Peter, thanks for taking the time out of your day to do this video, and it was great
Absolutely,
hanging out
Nick.
with you guys at NAB and here in at Pig Beach. I wish it was a warmer day at Pig Beach,
Indeed.
but maybe next time. So if you would like to watch this video or others, including everything from NAB 2022 or from the Gotham Expo, please go to gothamsound.tv. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have any questions or comments, please give us a call or email us at info@gothamsound.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and take care.